How? No, seriously, I want to know how. How? How do you take Reanimated, which is one of the worst films that I have ever seen in my life? How do you take that, and how do you make it worse?
A few years ago, I reviewed the 2006 Cartoon Network television movie, Reanimated, which was basically made to showcase the network's transition to live action, a move universally described by historians as incredibly stupid. It was more than just a TV movie though. It was a pilot movie, meant to spin off into its own full show called Out of Jimmy's Head. When I set out on doing this particular review, I thought that this was going to be just a funny meme haha review. Let me be absolutely clear here. This show is awful. Actually, no, that doesn't describe it. Awful is just a Tuesday for what I review. This show made me angry. Like, literally, genuinely angry. No haha internet critic parody guy. Actually angry. And here's the funny thing about this. Like, the only funny thing about it. Much of the show has been lost over the years. Because when it was on way back when, people would have rather shoved their television out of the window than recorded it for posterity. There is a DVD of it, but it's been hard to find. What I'm saying is that I have limited resources for this review. Like 20 episodes of the show exist, and 10 of them only exist in Romanian and Italian.
Că nu te mai opreai din plâns când ți-a intrat pasărea colibri în casă.
Omelette de fromage.
So if you're wondering about the video quality in this episode, I had to apologize, but this is literally the best quality footage of Out of Jimmy's Head that exists in the entire world. Yes, I am very proud to own this. So when push came to shove, I managed to get 10 episodes of the show. 10 episodes. That is it. And in those 10 episodes, it has been years since I've had this much pain watching something. 10 episodes. And here's the amazing thing. If it was just one kind of bad, that would be tolerable. But no, every single episode finds a new way to duck me off. And it's weird, because I did watch a couple episodes of this when I was a kid. I didn't like it, but it didn't hit those pain points that it does today. I mean, I remember hating episodes like The Splinter and Lupe's Revenge, shows like Squirrel Boy and the Cram Twins. This, I just remembered it being mediocre and stupid. So let's start with the most basic fundamental problems. This show is garbage. Flaming hot flavor. I was pretty harsh on the movie because it was put together with scotch tape, spite for Disney, and CNN enemies. What you do have to know about the movie, though, is that it had a budget. Out of Jimmy's Head does not have a budget, but it does have a lot of the same problems, so you'll have to bear with me. This show has a basic premise. We're supposed to laugh at a person with schizophrenic delusions. I mean a kid that has cartoons living in his brain. There are a lot of problems with this premise that I went into with the movie, and if you want to know what they are, I suggest you check out my Reanimator review. You should probably see that as a companion piece to this one.
For now, though, we're going to need to set all of that aside because I do not want this video to go for over 5 hours. And believe me, I could.
So the real premise is that a character has actual living cartoons in their brain. And the show tries to go for the whole Roger Rabbit effect, where the cartoon characters are actual living things. They're entities with their own ego and such. Now, using a similar premise to Roger Rabbit did the movie Reanimated very few favors because Roger Rabbit is good. The animation quality in Roger Rabbit is amazing. No, it's fucking amazing. The kind of technical quality that you see in that movie can only be done by masters with years and years of work and forethought under their belts. If you want to know how detailed things got, you can watch this video by Captain Christian. They had rules for constantly making the cartoon characters feel alive, like always meeting eyeline. They had shadows on every layer and every character. Reanimated the movie didn't even try. Half of the time, the cartoon characters didn't even have drop shadows, which is the most basic thing that you have to do to make it seem like cartoon characters inhabit the same world as live action ones. For a movie about cartoons, it constantly showed its lack of knowledge about animation, failing basic principles. Perspective was almost constantly broken. And if that's the movie, what do you think the actual show is like? Hey golly, what's a model sheet? In just about every single episode, getting worse as it goes on, you can find these hideous, horrendous, off-model appearances of the characters, especially Golly, but especially Dolly. I want to make this abundantly clear that I'm not pulling out smear frames like people do for The Simpsons or whatever. Look at this prolonged segment from episode 8 with just how uncanny Dolly looks here. And I mean, it's not impossible to make these characters look appealing, at least appealing as your typical stock shit Flash cartoon from the 2000s. Mentioning things like drop shadow and eyeline here is redundant, because they don't even draw their own characters correctly. Let's try another one.
Let's see if you can tell what's wrong with this picture.
So, in this shot, Golly moved with the camera. Like, this is seriously not hard. If you're not gonna put in the effort to animate the character moving with the camera, don't move the camera! Keep the camera still! The panning shot here was completely unnecessary. The only time that the animation looks even close to passable is these random fully animated segments. Jimmy looks a little wrong, but it doesn't look any worse than any other no-effort cartoon from the mid-2000s. Which, makes you wonder why they didn't just make another cartoon on the Cartoon fucking Network! But fine. You want to make a live-action show, I get it. Cartoons ain't cool anymore, you want some of that sweet, sweet Ned's Declassified money.
So, how well do you think that they pulled that part off?
Excuse me, did you just superimpose something on that television? Why? Is it really not in your budget to put whatever background shit on a DVD and then just have it play?
He's a full-red freak from the streets of Antarctica!
Oh good, and now Jimmy is rapping. That is exactly what I needed in my life. Excuse me, what? Did you just animate ketchup squirting from a bottle? Was 12 ounces of ketchup so far out of your budget that you needed to have some poor
Unpaid intern
sit in the basement all night clacking away at a computer keyboard to badly generate animated ketchup? The fuck? Can you fake destroy an electronic any worse?
I could go on and on and on about how bad the effects in this show are, but let me put this in the simplest way that I can. Out of Jimmy's Head came out in 2007. There were videos on YouTube that had better quality effects.
I mean, here's the green screen effects in this show, and here's the green screen effects of a YouTube video from the exact same year! Shots in episode 5 are randomly at an angle for no reason, like the director wanted to remake Battlefield Earth. Episode 10 has 2 shots of Jimmy eating ice cream that it just plays in reverse on loop. Episode 4 is just a perfect showcase of how bad the effects are in general. And no, I'm not just talking about how obvious that it's not Jimmy in that suit. Speaking of which, I feel really awful for the guy in the robot suit. That thing looked like it could not have been comfortable. Now, this show does not have any budget. It doesn't have any talent. It doesn't have any humor. It doesn't have a decent story. It doesn't have a good premise. It doesn't have good characters. It doesn't have good production. It doesn't have passion. It doesn't even have a reason to exist. It doesn't have any effort whatsoever. But it does have one thing. It has a laugh track, and that's something that you can never take away from it. So, this show gives off some major Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide vibes. I mean, it would if Out of Jimmy's Head was any good, but they're basically trying to go for the same thing. They both want to be essentially a live-action cartoon. However, one thing you have to know is that Ned's Declassified isn't god-awful! All of this movie's problems stem from the fact that it is live-action and it is not animated.
I was wrong. And Ned's Declassified is a perfect example as to why I was wrong.
Ned's Declassified has the tone of a cartoon. Throughout it, the characters are often exposed to cartoon gags and wacky situations. You have some really over-the-top personalities. Everyone's favorite character was Gordy, as he tried and failed to catch the school weasel and failed in humorous ways. But every single character there was memorable. From mains like Cookie, who was a cyborg, to some of the more minor characters, like Claire Sawyer, future lawyer, to Coconut Head, who didn't even really do anything. The show had over-the-top effects, the school even exploded a few times, and it managed to create a world where just about anything could happen, which wonderfully matched the overall feel of a real middle school. You need a few things to make that kind of show work. Number 1, you need really, really good writing. We're out of luck here. Number 2, you need really good actors. And number 3, you need really good characters. If you have those things, you can overcome something like a limited budget. With Ned's Declassified, everyone knew that the weasel was fake, obviously, they didn't try to hide it, but Darren Norris, the actor who played Gordy, took his role of trying to catch that thing so seriously it didn't matter. In all honesty, the weasel being fake made the gag funnier, which was definitely helped by a great script that was grounded when it needed to be, but wasn't afraid to go over the top, and it had characters that had a strong identity. So, let's talk about the characters, shall we? So if you'll remember my reanimated review, this character is Craig, and he is the worst. Craig is such a bad, awfully written character, and such a mean-spirited person that I can never hear the name Craig without going into an uncontrollable rage ever again.
I was wrong.
Craig is not the worst. Jimmy's dad is the worst. Now, on my best, most forgiving, happiest days, I have a strong, burning desire to poke anyone who makes a stupid sitcom father with a pointy stick repeatedly until they tell me to stop. But, oh my fucking god, I was not prepared for this. I can ignore shit like him not being able to tell his son apart from a robot. I mean, he was missing his contact lenses after all. It's not like the robot has also been speaking in an entirely different voice.
No, thank you. I much prefer chili with my sauce.
But straight out of the gate in episode 1, he has this great idea to make a talent show. And
even though everyone is special, but of course there will be mockery for the least special act. Thank you! Good night!
This is episode 1, his character introduction for the show. Asshole, and that's his name now. He has an actual name in the show, but as far as I'm concerned, his name is Asshole. First name fucking. He just goes on and on about how fucking excited he is that he gets to designate how mediocre and worthless trash some of his students are.
Oh, the specialness gong will warn you if you're the kind of special where no one in their right mind would want to see you perform. Somebody doesn't have a talent.
I have talent.
You believe in yourself. And that's what's going to make your act so unintentionally hilarious. Now, what should I put you down for?
Episode 3 is the sexism episode, which we'll get to, trust me. Because fucking Asshole is such a big, strong, smart man, he steals a spaceship and ends up crying like a baby the entire episode. Then there's the aforementioned confusing his son for a robot. The excuse in-universe is that he drank his contact lenses, which is weird because Asshole would intentionally trade his son for a robot. Any day of the week. And I know this because in every fucking episode he's going on and on and on and on and on about how fucking embarrassed he is about Jimmy's mere existence. In episode 10, he seems really happy to throw his son into prison and then chase him down like a criminal. Episode 9, let's ban soda and then accept soda as a bribe. Episode 7, he takes the side of Neville Pepperman as he torments his son. Which, yes, we will get to the fact that Neville from iCarly is in this show, I swear to you. Like, point blank, this character is less likable than Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like, it almost seems like this show wants you to hate this guy. But, guess what? They don't! He's a guy whose antics you're supposed to see as funny and charming. And I'd rather take a punch to the kidney than ever have to see this stupid character again. The one time that Craig actually gives a shit about Jimmy and says that he's in danger, Jimmy's dad doesn't give a fucking shit. Cartoons get mean. I understand this. But there's a difference between mean-spirited humor and just being incredibly unpleasant. And it's not just him either. Let's talk about Craig. Yes, Craig and Robin have different actors in this and they got race swapped. It's not important. To be honest, Craig was toned down quite a bit. He's still an asshole whose sole character trait is to make fun of Jimmy. But,
What happened to you yesterday? You get hit by a train, then you, totally ditch me. Dude, I was in the hospital. It's always about you, isn't it?
And out of Jimmy's head, we don't have too many moments like that.
Well, I told you my dad's gonna take over. And I ignored you. I couldn't have been more clear.
Too many moments. In one episode, he tries to fake being sick by drinking expired milk, and then spends the rest of the episode vomiting. So, there's that. I'm sorry, I just really fucking hate Jimmy's dad. Like, I want to bitch about this guy. A lot. In fact, you might even remember me saying something along the lines of, Craig is not the worst. Jimmy's dad is the worst.
I was wrong. Totally and inexcusably wrong. The kind of wrong that can only be approached with theoretical physics.
Let's talk about the cartoon characters and why I want to go commit die. In episode 8, Dolly tries to get Jimmy to commit a crime by forcing him to kiss someone who has repeatedly made it apparent that she is totally not and never ever 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 will be into him. And it's creepy, especially because of how off-model Dolly is. Like, to be as clear as I can, Dolly is like the female version of Glenn Quagmire. I won't even tell you how many of my notes on this show are just how much I hate Dolly. Fall in love, Jimmy! You gotta impress the girl, Jimmy! Every single person ever loves you, Jimmy! That girl completely ignores you because she loves you! That girl over there is breathing because she's in love! Ask two girls at once because that's love, Jimmy! You know what? Yes, I am going to read my notes on this show verbatim.
Just gotta grab my notes here. Ahem. Dolly is such a fucking asshole. I hate her. I hate her so much I want her to die. Dolly is the worst. The series tries to show how these cartoon characters care for Jimmy, but they are such manipulative assholes.
And yeah, I suppose we should talk about the entire ensemble. So, you want to know what episode 1 is about?
Somebody doesn't have a talent.
Besides that, it's a talent show, and Tux wants Jimmy to tell some of his awful jokes.
Do you guys know why the plus sign hated the minus sign? Because he was so negative. Zing!
Jimmy, to his credit, repeatedly and nicely tells Tux that he doesn't want to tell these jokes at the talent show. He's already got a plan. But then when Jimmy doesn't use the jokes, Tux completely breaks. So in the rest of this episode, we are supposed to feel bad that Jimmy offended the penguin that lives inside of his brain! The right moral course of action is for Jimmy to humiliate himself for the penguin that, I repeat, lives inside of his brain. Like, let's take a step backwards, shall we? I'm going to give this show's premise every benefit of the doubt that I could possibly give it. It still makes no sense. If I had characters that lived in my brain, you'd think that they would want me to succeed in my life, or barring that, not want me to get arrested. Because anything bad that would happen to me would happen to them as well. In fact, if I had characters living in my brain, they would probably find this shit offensive.
The characters that live in my brain wanted me to tell you that they'd never ever make me do anything that might humiliate me. Shut up. No, you shut up.
Meanwhile, these gremlins seem to be created for the sole purpose of actively trying to hurt Jimmy. In the movie, Golly was self-serving. He was all super concerned about his popularity to the expense of everyone else. But no, in episode 1, Jimmy, bomb your reputation to make the penguin that lives in your fucking brain think he's funny. Even though his entire character is that he's not funny. The very next episode goes on about how badly Golly treats Croco. It is out of character in every sense of the word for Golly to give the slightest shit of anyone but himself. Especially a stupid penguin that is never funny and only does like 2 plot relevant things. And like the only 2 plot relevant things they did was get Jimmy to humiliate himself and then to get him arrested. In the detention episode, they need to fake a decision for Tux to not fuck up or something. I don't even know. By that time I was done. The only tune that remotely seems to care about Jimmy is Croco, and Croco nearly got him killed. You know, I'm beginning to think that Milt Appleday's death wasn't an accident. If I was stuck with these Hellspawn, I'd drink paint until I died too. It really is something that moments when the characters are actually concerned for one another seem incredibly out of character. It's not something that sands out their rough edges, but like, Craig. The established Craig character from the show would never, ever try to save Jimmy's life. Even if his own life was in danger, if he didn't save Jimmy, he would not save Jimmy. He would let Jimmy die, because that is who Craig is. Golly would never, ever care that Tux was humiliated, because that is the kind of character that Golly's established to be. At the end of episode 10, Jimmy's dad gives him a sundae to show how sorry he is for being harsh on him. That character would never do that. That is the same son that Jimmy's dad was pretty much happy to disown when he embarrassed himself in the talent show. Speaking of that son, I suppose we should talk about him. The kid that rounds out the cast by holding it all together. Jimmy! Jimmy boy! Jimbo! Little Jimmy. You know what his main shtick is? Jimmy is a stalker.
Oh, the picture of her the first time you met. The note she sent you when she wanted to borrow your pencil. And a headband?
Like, a literal criminal level stalker. It's horribly disturbing. You know how every episode of Little Ellen started with her in the bathroom for no reason? Well, every single episode of the show starts with Jimmy revealing what a full-on stalker he is for Robin. He knows all her classes. He knows every day she took off and why. He has her first gum wrapper.
Robin started chewing gum? You are going right in here, mister.
Dude, that is beyond creepy.
This is our hero, by the way. I mean, in half of the episodes, he's your average generic kid protagonist with no traits whatsoever. The other half of the time, all you need to do is edit out the cartoon characters, and it's like you're watching American Psycho for kids. I'm glad I don't have all the episodes, because I can only imagine that by the season finale, Robin would be chained up in his basement. And if you're wondering what this guy sees in Robin...
I've never kissed a girl.
Me neither.
I have literally no words to describe that moment. Jimmy literally fucking dies in episode 8.
Oh yeah, there was something about this mad scientist trying to steal Jimmy's brain. Sonny is barely in this. He's never relevant for more than a subplot. I could do this thing where I talk about how Phineas and Ferb always managed to somehow tie in a mad scientist's actions with the actual main plot, even though they were barely in the same area, and Dr. Doofenshmirtz had even less to do with the premise than Sonny. But that would be offensive to Phineas and Ferb, which I might remind you started airing the exact same year. You could either be watching this or Phineas and Ferb at the time. So I already went into detail about episode 1. Jimmy is a slave to the penguin in his brain, and needs to prove it during a school talent show by humiliating himself, which he does so well that his family wants to disown him, which is entirely believable because his father, fucking asshole, seemed to be excited to let middle school kids know how they weren't worth shit. Meanwhile, Craig does a thing and pretends to be dying because he stubbed his toe. Episode 2, Craig is a Craig. Craig is the craigiest Craig that ever Craig. So Jimmy and Craig stop being in a parasitic relationship. It would be a happy ending, except Craig and Jimmy get back together in the end, having learned absolutely nothing. These are just appetizers for the real shit, though. Episode 3 is a sexism episode, and the worst sexism episode that I have ever seen. It's a plot type that's been done right once in Kids Next Door, but is always awful everywhere else it has ever been tried.
I mean, you did waste $80 million of fuel, but what are tax dollars for? Now hold on. I can guide you down via remote control.
Oh, sweet. This isn't so hard. Maybe I can just take it in from here, huh? You are the professional!
So why do these episodes in general fail? Because every single male character becomes randomly sexist, even though they've never shown any sexist behavior in any episode beforehand or since. The male characters also delve into horribly sexist stereotypes, allowing the girl characters to also be horribly sexist stereotypes, because they're so much better than the male characters. This is to show that the girls can... I honestly don't know. The episode shows them as pretty fucking neurotic. Yancy has this I hate boys sleepover because her werewolf boyfriend, don't ask, it is not important, missed like one call one time. Jimmy is randomly chivalrous.
Would you all please stop? Not everybody is into this. All right, Robin, you can go.
You know, the kid that never stands up for himself anytime ever is fully willing to stand up for this girl for no reason. Gotta protect Robin from the food fights.
There. Now smile.
Okay, you had your fun. So let's say you let me go. You can all kiss the bride.
You want a fun fact? I originally started looking for the show because of this episode in specific. Like, I wanted to tie a review into the whole Minnie Mouse pants controversy or whatever, because in this episode, Dolly loses her skirt and acts like, I want to say a man, but no, she acts like a homeless man that lives in the junkyard. And I can safely say that whatever point or jokes that I was trying to make was not worth it at all. In episode 4, a man tries to hit on Jimmy's mom for half of it. A married woman who has brought her daughter to work for Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. It's uncomfortable and it makes me want to lie down in traffic. Episode 5 is... that one's great though. There are ghosts in the school. Only Jimmy can see them. You know, the character whose entire gimmick is he sees things that no one else can. It takes him to the end of a 22-minute episode to figure out why this kid, who normally sees things that other people can't on a daily basis, can see something that no one else can. 70% of the episode is just screaming. And beyond that, it's the most poorly made episode of all of them. This is the episode where they felt the need to animate the ketchup, where they had shots at an angle for no reason. Other shots are framed weird, like they're trying to make them off-putting for no reason. On the bright side, Ubi makes a cameo. In episode 6, Craig throws up a lot, and Yancy mentions her molted skin. I think I should mention that this show is really fucking gross sometimes, and by sometimes I mean every single episode is disgusting. One episode ends with fucking asshole just grossly eating a jelly donut burger. They hold on this jelly donut burger eating for so long, and the actor just looks at the camera with a stupid grin like he knows exactly what he's doing, and that has been in my nightmares ever since I watched it. Episode 10 has garbage raining on people. Episode 9 gives the shots of someone's rotten teeth. Jimmy gets covered in gross cheese in the skating episode. And because I said I'd mention it, one episode has Neville from iCarly playing the exact same character. Except he hasn't gone through puberty yet, and so all of his lines are incredibly high-pitched, and it makes my life constant agony.
Simply follow the rules and nobody gets hurt.
You may give me a big hug.
In that episode, no one cared that Neville was bullying people, tormenting them, blackmailing them, and trying to force a girl to be his date. All of that is okay by the standards of everyone in the show, but having embarrassing parents, that is completely unforgivable and he becomes humiliated and a pariah. Also, Craig does a thing. Episode 8, once again, is where Jimmy fucking dies, and I don't think I want to go on after that. The problem with the show... Okay, there's a lot of fucking problems with the show. The main issue is that it is just mean and nasty. There's a way to do mean-spirited humor, but this show is just continually unpleasant. It's just watching awful people be awful to each other with no comedic payoff whatsoever. And hell, I know mean-spirited humor isn't up my alley, but I can like shows that are of a more mean level. Like, I like Drake and Josh, and that was a sadist show. But that's because it was funny and actually had comedic writing. And the scenarios were at least comedic. Do I find it funny when fucking asshole is going on and on about how he can't wait to humiliate kids? No, I don't. It'd be one thing if this was like Trunchbull, a character we're supposed to hate that gets their comeuppance eventually, but it's not. It's just a frightening man being disturbing to children with a gleeful smile on his face. Cartoons can be mean, absolutely. Some would argue that that's what they're best at, but comedy like that takes especially good writing. Instead, I feel like I just watched One Course Meal 10 times in a row. If you don't remember, that was the episode where characters were laughing because someone wanted to commit suicide. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plot of one of the episodes I couldn't get. Let me see the Wikipedia real quick. Episode 16, Princess. Jimmy is jealous when Robin has a date for a movie night at the Roberts residence. So he uses Sunny's new invention to make a cartoon princess come to life as his own date. Sunny, meanwhile, decides to fill the princess spot and learns what animated life is really like.
And I think we should stop here. I know way too much about what people in real life do with cartoon princesses. You guys see those ducks, right?
Hey, you've reached the end of the video. The names scrolling by right now are of all the wonderful patrons who donated to help keep this channel alive. If you'd like your name in the credits, head on over and make a donation yourself. Also, be sure to check out my Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for exclusive content and previews of my upcoming videos. I've also got a forum where you can discuss anything that has to do with my content and connect with the rest of the community. To find anything that I mentioned, just visit my link tree in the description down below. Lastly, be sure to subscribe, comment, and share this video with your friends. Oh, and thanks for watching.
I would... Okay, maybe that's not the best idea.